Hey friends, I'm Mel and welcome to my kitchen. Tonight you're in for a treat. I've been digging back in the archives over the last 2 to 3 years and I've pulled out 8 of my best ever soup recipes for you. Some of them are dump and go crock pot style. Some of them you cook on the stove. They're all delicious. Now, this is a compilation video. You might see us in the summer. You might see us at the beach in the fall. You might see us at Christmas. You just don't know what you might see us doing, but I'll tell you, you're gonna love it. Let's get started with a creamy Cajun chicken soup. First thing that I have to do to make this soup is to make me a Cajun seasoning because I don't have any Cajun seasoning or Old Bay. So I'm just gonna start with sort of a basic recipe I found for Cajun seasoning, and I'm not putting in the cayenne pepper because I don't have any and I don't like hot stuff. So I don't know why I wanted this Cajun soup, because I don't really like hot stuff, but I'm going to customize it sort of to how I like. It just looked delicious. So I'm going to start out with a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, then a half a teaspoon of onion powder, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. It calls for a teaspoon of oregano and thyme, which I don't have either one of those, but I'm just going to use 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning. It has both those in it. Then the main thing in here is your paprika. Gonna get 2 teaspoons of that. And that's gonna be our seasoning. And I am definitely using what I have. This calls for onions, peppers, celery, carrots. I did not have any celery or carrots or any kind of soup starter in my freezer. But I did have this 3 pepper and onion blend, so this is what I'm going to use. Got my crock pot greased, and I've got 2 decent sized frozen chicken breasts and then 2 smaller ones in here. And I'm just going to go in with this bag of peppers and onions, and I thought I would chop them, but I just decided not to because they're not that big, and I think they'll cook up just fine in here. Gonna put in a couple little spoonfuls of some minced garlic. Gonna use 1 can of petite diced tomatoes, and I'm gonna leave their juice in here. This recipe called for fire roasted. I will have this original recipe linked for you in the description box, so you can make it according to the recipe if you like. Coming in with about 2 cups of chicken broth. Then I'm gonna sprinkle in about 2 tablespoons of our seasoning mixture. And that just about used all that up. So yeah, I'm just gonna put it all in. I'm gonna set this on high for about 3 or 4 hours. I've got just a couple of quick errands to run. Then when I get back, we will add all of our creamy ingredients. I did come back just a few minutes later and I gave everything a really good stir just to make sure all those seasonings got down in the broth so that while this was cooking up all day, everything would get a chance to get seasoned. Okay, after 4 hours, I cut this down to low and I just left it on low all day long. I'm just going to take my little meat chopper tool and I'm just going to shred this chicken up right in here. Now into this, I'm taking an 8-ounce block of cream cheese, and I did try to cube it up just a little bit to help it along, but you know how cream cheese is. Now I'm just going to stir in a 1/4 cup heavy cream. I'm just going to stir this in and let this sit on low for about 30 minutes. I'm going to make some cornbread, so that ought to be about the perfect amount of time to get all this cream cheese dissolved and melted down in here. Now this is smelling delicious. It may not look so appetizing. You know how some of these soups are, but it is smelling good. I make my cornbread very simply. It's basically just the recipe off the back of the Martha White cornmeal mix bag, and then I just do a few little extra steps to it. If you're interested in a really good cornbread, I'll link a video below where my mom and my dad and I did some cooking together, and Dad showed his cornbread method and his recipe. It's next level. So if you want some cornbread inspiration, be sure and check that out. But I'll have to say my cornbread turned out pretty good this day, and it paired perfectly with this creamy Cajun chicken soup. This soup was amazing. I'm always looking for a good soup recipe that I think will please everybody in the house. I love soup, but Patrick's not that keen on it, so I'm really choosy about trying new things because I don't want to waste it. He absolutely loved this one, and I did too. For us, it had the perfect amount of seasoning, and of course you can customize this and spice it up as much as you like, but this was perfect for us. We topped ours with a little sour cream and some cheddar cheese and green onions. This is definitely one that I am so happy I tried. I've got another soup I can pull out and do in the crock pot on these colder winter days. Can't wait to have this again. And the leftovers were twice as nice. Now I'm going to share a cheeseburger soup recipe. The first thing that I'm doing to make this soup is to get all my dicing out of the way, and I diced up about 4 russet potatoes, just regular size, really small, half of a sweet Vidalia onion, and about 5 or 6 slices of bacon. Just cook your bacon off in your pot, then remove it, and I did leave the bacon grease in there while I browned up a pound of hamburger meat. Then I did drain my hamburger meat off as well. Back into my big pot, I've put in about a half a stick of butter, and I'm going to saute up those onions for about 4 or 5 minutes. Then I'm going to add a little bit of garlic. Now, if I had had some celery, that would have went in here, but I didn't have any celery or carrots. Now I'm adding in some flour, about 6 tablespoons of it. And I'm going to cook this for 2 or 3 minutes here and just make sure that raw flour taste is out. Then I'm going to whisk in 4 cups of chicken broth, and that is one of the big 32-ounce containers. Want to whisk the entire time that I'm pouring this in. Pour in a cup of heavy cream, about a teaspoon or so of Worcestershire sauce. I'm just going to stir all that together and get that combined. Then, real careful like, I'm going to add in my diced potatoes. And I'm going to add in that browned ground beef that I have drained. Again, just combine everything really good, and I always hit it with just a little bit of seasonings here. I'm using some black pepper and my Auntie Nono's, which is salt and garlic and onion powder. I'm going to mix all this up really good and bring it up to a boil. Then I'm just going to turn it down to simmer and kind of set my lid off to the side a little bit on there. Cook it about 10 or 15 minutes till my potatoes are good and tender. Then I'm just going to remove it from the heat, and I'm going to stir in about 2 cups of some sharp cheddar cheese here and get it all mixed in. That melts down beautifully, and I'm going to put in almost all of my bacon. I'm just going to save a little bit of that out to garnish the top of my soup bowls with. This is so velvety and so creamy. This tastes so very good. The recipe said cut you up some pickles and put on the top of your soup. They said whatever you do, do not skip this step for your cheeseburger. And this was really, really good. I highly recommend when you make this soup, don't skip the pickles. That just was like the icing on the cake. This soup hit the spot. It was very rich and hearty, very flavorful. I'm so happy to share today's sponsor with you, Rocket Money. If you like saving money, you're going to love Rocket Money. I've always been very conscious of what I spend, and I'm always looking for ways to save money and cut expenses. Especially now that we're entering our retirement phase of life, it was a good time to take a step back and just look at our overall financial health, make sure that we're on the right track, and see if there's any areas that we can improve in. And Rocket Money is there to help. Rocket Money is a personal finance platform that helps you save more and spend less. The app is easy to use. You can set up a custom budget and savings plans. You can lower your bills and even manage subscriptions all in one place. I think a lot of us just don't know how many unused subscriptions we're paying for every month. You know, those things that we sign up for, then they're automatically withdrawn out of our account and we kind of forget about them. Yeah, I was surprised when Rocket Money found one that I had forgotten about too. Rocket Money safely and securely identifies reoccurring charges and cancels unwanted subscriptions for you with just a tap. They can help you monitor your credit score too. Rocket Money will alert you of important changes that would impact your credit score, and they can offer you insights on ways to improve it. And who doesn't want to lower those bills? Cell phone and cable bills, even internet service. By simply uploading a photo and tapping a button, Rocket Money can negotiate your bills for you. If you want to save more and spend less, join the millions of Rocket Money members today and download Rocket Money and unlock more features with premium. Go to rocketmoney.com/mommamail or click the link in the description below. Start managing your personal finances today. Go to rocketmoney.com/mommamail or grab that link below to download Rocket Money and unlock more features with premium. And thank you, Rocket Money, for sponsoring today's video. Now let's make some white beans. I have a pound bag of just white beans, and the first thing you always do with dried beans is you have to look them, which basically just means looking through all the beans for any little pebbles or anything like that that might be in there, and then you just want to wash them thoroughly. And I like to cook my white beans in the crock pot. I'm pulling out some ham that I had in the freezer left over from Christmas, and I'm just going to throw a little bit of that in here with these beans. Then you want to make sure and cover them with plenty of water when you put them in the crock pot. I probably use 4 to 6 cups here. And white beans cook up quick, a lot quicker than pinto beans. I just season them real simple with salt and pepper and a little bit of onion powder. I give them a little stir here, and I did not add any additional fat to these beans since we had the ham in there, and I am going to cook them on a high, and they're done in just about 4 hours. You can't have beans without a big skillet of cornbread. I've made cornbread a million times on here, but I will put my recipe down below for you. It's very simple, just off the back of the cornmeal bag with a few little additions here and there. Nothing like a big old piece of cornbread. And I like to, of course, put some under my white beans and let it soak up all that wonderful soup that's under them. I love white beans with pepper and salt on them. And I just opened up a can of the Margaret Holmes seasoned greens. We love these. And the meatloaf was delicious as always. Okay, classic taco soup. I have my crock pot greased. I'm using 2 14.5-ounce cans of petite diced peeled tomatoes. Say that quick a few times. None of these cans are being drained. You want the extra juice. Using a regular size can of just whole kernel sweet corn, an entire can of black beans. Again, I did not rinse or drain. You want all of the thick, rich goodness. Putting in a regular size can of pinto beans. We love Lux pinto beans seasoned with pork in the South. If you don't have time to make pinto beans, you get you a couple cans of these, put a good amount of water on them and cook them down hard, and they taste almost as good as the real deal. I always add in just about a cup or so of extra water because you want to make sure you got enough. Now I'm going to take that pound of ground beef and put it in. I drained most of the grease off of it. It's okay if you leave a tablespoon or so. That's just going to give it some extra flavor. Now I'm going to hit this with a little black pepper. Because I did not have my garlic to brown up, I'm also going to hit it with a little bit of this Auntie Nono's. This has salt, and of course it has onion powder and garlic powder in it. This is another thing I always travel with. The recipe calls for a half of a package of ranch dressing seasoning, but we're going in with the whole thing. It won't hurt one bit. And what am I going to do on vacation with a half a pack of ranch seasoning laying around? And we're going to take a whole envelope of taco seasoning. And last but not least ingredient, some diced onion. Then very carefully You're going to give all this a stir. This crock pot is a 4-quart crock pot, brand crock pot. It's an oval shape. I get questions a lot about my crock pots. The maroon one I use is also an oval, and it's a 6-quart. I don't remember the brand of it right now, but neither one of mine are programmable. They just have low, high, and keep warm. Maybe one of these days when they bite the dust, I might get me a fancy programmable one. I would like to have one of them that you can saute your meat down inside of it first. That would be a game changer for me, because you know I love not having to do extra dishes. We're going to let it cook on low all day. It's about 10 o'clock right now. Whenever we're ready to eat, it'll be ready. It'll just get better the longer it sits here. And we'll show you some delicious and easy Mexican cornbread when we come back tonight. Hey friends, we've been gone all day long. We took the day and we went to Seaside Beach. There's like a little shopping down there. We always like to go to Sundog Books because, you know, it's just a bookstore on the beach. It's kind of fun. But it is 7:15, and so we're beginning to get hungry again. We've got our taco soup in the crock pot. Oven's ready. This is my favorite Mexican cornbread, Martha White. It's in a little envelope here, and we do a little bit of something different with it. This is also new packaging, so what you see may look different. But there is a little recipe on the bottom, Southwestern cornbread. That's not what we're making though. They used to have a different recipe down here for a special cornbread, and I just like it better. We are doubling this, so normally you use like an 8x8 or just an 8-inch round cake pan, but we're going to use this size. I don't have my little measuring tape down here with me. I don't know what size this is, but we're going to use it. And I've got 2 packages of the Mexican cornbread in there. We're going to use 2/3 cup of milk. I'm going to put 2 eggs in it. And then I just have a regular size can of sweet cream style corn. You put about a cup for each package. So I'm just going to use whole can. That's what I'm going to do. We've really used a lot of cheese this week. So I'm just going to throw in maybe a cup and a half of shredded cheddar cheese. Here is what this mixture looks like, if I can get it up here and show you without spilling it. It has all the seasonings in it. Of course, if you wanted extra jalapenos or any of that stuff, peppers cut up in it, you can do that. But, you know, my kids have always been funny about textures. And when I started making this, they just liked it like this. And honestly, this is just how we like it without any of that stuff. So put this in our pan, throw it in the oven. We'll see you in a minute. Look how yummy and colorful, cozy, delicious this soup is. It doesn't matter if it's winter or summer. And this cornbread, just try this package, put you the corn and cheese in it. You're going to love it, trust me. This would also be in a video I have coming up of my favorite crock pot soups and stews. But once again, that's coming next week. So this is another video you just need to put in your favorites file because this is also an all-time favorite soup. We're going completely rogue today. Did not plan on making this at all, but last night I made the cheeseburger soup. Let me show you a picture of it. Absolutely delicious. So then when I got on Pinterest this morning, it showed me a chicken bacon ranch soup, and I know it's going to be delicious. And I had all of this here. I'll tell you what we're putting in as we go. This ain't a really pretty intro picture, but here you go. Chicken bacon ranch soup. It's going to be good. First thing I'm going to do is get my chopping done, and I like my onions cut up really little in soups. I've got 6 slices of bacon here. I like to chop mine up in little bitty tiny pieces and fry it up in my pot. We're just going to remove our bacon once we get it nice and crispy. And now we're going to saute our onions up for about 3 or 4 minutes in this bacon grease. Shouldn't take long for these to get cooked up here and softened. And if you watched last week's video with the cheeseburger soup, it's a lot of the same steps, you know. Soup is soup. but it's good. These are looking good and soft now, so I'm just going to put in a little bit of garlic. I'm also going to put in 2 tablespoons of flour. Making a little roux here, and you do need to make sure your flour gets, cooked a couple minutes. You want to cook that raw flour taste out of it. That is looking perfect. So I am going to take 4 cups of chicken broth. That's one of these big 32-ounce containers, and I'm just going to whisk this in. I'm also going to be putting in a tablespoon of like ranch dry seasoning. This one right here, I got at Aldi, and I'm really enjoying it. It's used it in a couple recipes, and it's really good. I'm going to cut my heat up just a little bit. Once this comes up to a boil, she says to take about 1.5 cups of rotini pasta, but I have this baggie here of bow tie pasta. This is probably about 1.5 cups. Today, you're just getting raw, real, everyday cooking. Didn't plan to make this, but I've missed just bringing yins in here and showing yins the things that I decide to throw in at the last minute, because we eat dinner more than a couple times a week. And I have cut back to showing on some of my videos just a meal or two. I'm going to turn this down just a smidgen, and I'm going to put a lid on this, let it vent just a little bit, and cook it about 10 minutes. I'm supposed to put in an 8-ounce block of cream cheese. Well, I have a block here that I just used about 3 ounces out of, so I'm going to put it in here. So I'm putting in about 5 ounces of cream cheese. At this point, you put in 2 cups of cooked chicken. You could use canned chicken. You could use a rotisserie chicken. You could use chicken that you've just cooked up. I actually had some chicken in the freezer, and it's not hardly all the way thawed out yet, but that is okay. I cook chicken in the crock pot just about every week or every other week. Whatever I don't use out of it, I'll just bag it up and put it in the freezer for such a time as this. And like this little soup here, because I do have my freezer pretty well stocked and my pantry decently stocked, I can do things on the fly like that. And this is going to be a nice thick soup, which I like. And I almost forgot, you want to add most of your bacon in here. You just want to save a little bit to put on the top. Oh, this is looking so pretty. All right, let's just give that just a couple more minutes with the lid on, and I think it's going to be about ready. This little soup came together so quick. Now, I did not have any fresh spinach in the refrigerator, but I have some frozen spinach. I love spinach and stuff. I love greens. I love all that. Oh yes, I'm glad we did that. That makes it really pretty. Let's give it just a minute. Then I'll plate it up. YouTuber. I ain't even gonna clean it up. If I was feeling real bougie today, I'd clean that up and redo this. But here, we'll just hide it. And here comes your aesthetic soup ladling. Usually I just voice over this stuff and add that pretty music in, and y'all never even know the chaos that I have around here. Give me a little bite out here to be cooling. Oh man, that is good. Mine's pretty spinachy, so if you don't like spinach, don't put as much in yours as I've got in mine. But I like it. I think next time I need to put more ranch, because my spinach has overtaken my ranch. It is definitely a winner though. It is colder than I'll get out here today. This tastes delicious. For a man that says he doesn't like soup, Patrick is sure enjoying this. He said he liked this even better than the cheeseburger soup that we had. The longer it set, the better it got. And it even thickened up like just a regular pasta dish, which I absolutely loved that about it. This one is one that we are keeping close at hand. Creamy chicken taco soup is so easy. These ingredients, we've all got them, making it super simple, pantry staple, throw and go kind of crock pot meal. And when you're in a hurry, this little can strainer contraption will save you so much time. I drained my corn and my black beans, and I even rinsed them through this strainer. I didn't have to fool with pulling a great big one out of the cabinet to do this. And you can also use this strainer to mash down in the top of a can of tuna or pineapple to drain them. Ain't true to my Mama Mel fashion. Only I can mess up a dump and go crock pot meal. Forgot to spray my pot to begin with. This dish said to use 2 chicken breasts, so I put 4 in here. You can always tighten this up at the end with like a cornstarch slurry, but I just prefer to have it a little more chickeny to thicken it up. Y'all know I love a convenience item. Instead of cutting up an onion, I'm going to use this frozen onion, and this one has celery and green bell peppers in it. This dish did call for a red bell pepper, but you know what? I'm just doing it all in one right here. Green will be fine. I'm going to use about half that bag. Now I'm going to pour in 3 cups of chicken broth. If you used one of those big cartons like you see back there in the background, you're going to have 1 cup left in it. Now I'm going to pour in 2 cans of diced tomatoes with green chilies, also known as rotel. I'm using Kroger brand and Aldi brand. Didn't drain them or anything. I'm going to put in 1 can of black beans. I did rinse and drain those. And 1 can of whole kernel corn, and I did drain it as well. Now it's time for the magic makers. We're going to use 1 tablespoon of chili powder, 1 teaspoon each of smoked paprika. If you just have regular paprika, that's fine. Ground cumin and garlic powder. Let's give it just a little bit of a stir down in here to get all of our seasonings down into our broth. No spice left behind. Let's get it off the side of that crock pot. And let's pop a top again. And I'm going to cook mine on high for 3 to 4 hours. If you've got a long day of work, you could let this go all day on low. 6 to 8 hours, probably even longer. Okay, let's take a little peek in here. It smells really, really good. Let's look at our chicken and see how it's looking. Oh yeah, very good and done. 9 times out of 10, I just shred my chicken up down in my crock pot. But sometimes with soup, that gets a little hard or a little messy. So I'm just going to pull these out here to a plate. And I'll just shred it up right here on this plate. Okay, got this huge plate full of chicken all shredded up. Very carefully add that back down into your crock pot. Get it stirred back down into your soup. That's my favorite part, is when you shred that chicken up and stir it back in. It just all comes together then. I've had my cream cheese sitting out on the counter all day today. It's pretty cold in my house because it's pretty hot outside. But it does help if you have your cream cheese kind of at room temperature or softened. And I'm going to kind of chunk it up into smaller cubes. Sometimes I'll just lay the whole block of cream cheese in with the soup and let it cook down in it all day. And my soup has been cooking about 3.5 hours on high heat. If you've been cooking this all day on low, when you put your cream cheese in here, you definitely want to turn it up onto high, because this stuff will never get broken down and melted in if you don't. Now just lid it back up, cook it on high for 30 more minutes, and we'll be ready to eat. This soup is so flavorful and delicious. Not to mention, it's a beautiful soup. And this right here is football food at its finest. We love chili, but you know, you get tired of it after a couple weeks. You can garnish this with anything you want. Avocado slices, green onions, tortilla chips, whatever. I even forgot to put cheese on this. It's so good. And I tell you a secret, I make this one all summer long too. We're going to start on Monday with a white chicken chili, and I'm going to make this in the crock pot. I'm spraying that really good. It calls for 2 of the large cans of chunk white chicken breast, but I have some shredded chicken that I have already cooked and had in the freezer, so I'm going to use that. You could also use rotisserie or even fresh or frozen chicken breast in here. I'm going to put in 2 15-ounce cans of Great Northern beans, and none of the things I'm putting in are going to be drained or rinsed. Also going to put in 1 can of the rotel diced tomatoes and green chilies, and 1 15-ounce can of sweet whole kernel corn. Just going to season that up with a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm also going to put in 1 teaspoon of garlic powder and 1 teaspoon of onion powder. I'm going to throw in just a spoonful of minced garlic as well. And I've got 2 packs of McCormick white chicken chili seasoning mix, and I use both packs in here. And I'm also putting in 1 can of cream of chicken soup. I'm going to add in 4 cups of chicken broth. Give that all a nice big stir. Now I'm going to put this on, and I let mine cook on high for 2 hours. Then I cut it over to low because my chicken was already cooked. If you had fresh chicken in here, you could cook this on high 4 to 6 hours or on low for 6 to 8 hours. Once you've got your soup good and hot and thoroughly done, just give it another big stir, and we're going to take an 8-ounce block of cream cheese and mix it down into the soup. I like to chunk mine up in smaller pieces. It just seems to help it melt into it a little bit easier, and I do leave mine sitting out to get softened for just a little while before. Now I'm going to put the lid on this and let it set for about 30 more minutes, just kind of keeping my eye on it, and then continue to stir that. I'm just going to make some simple cheese quesadillas to go with this, and this is a recipe that I originally saw on Moss Family TV. You guys have probably seen Fallon's channel. If not, I'll leave it linked below, but this was a friend of hers recipe, and their families were getting together, and they actually made this outside on the open fire, and I just thought that was so neat. We like to serve ours on tortilla chips with just a little bit of sour cream and cheese over the top, and stick those little quesadillas down in there. This is just a chili that I don't ever think about making that often until it gets cold, but we absolutely love it. I don't know why I never think of it. Like to make this along with another chili at the first of the week, and then we can mix and match whichever of these we want the first 3 days of the week. The next chili I'm showing you is my good old faithful Chili-O chili. I've been making this little simple recipe for over 30 years now. I think my mom helped me come up with this when I first got married, and I was looking to make homemade chili, but I just didn't really know where to start. Simple, basic ingredients, but this little Chili-O packet is what takes it over the top. If you've never used this seasoning pack, it's amazing. I just start with 1 pound of ground beef. I drain the grease off of it, and then I'll throw some onions in there to soften up with it. Into this, I'm going to add a large 27-ounce can of Bush's chili beans. Also going to add in a large 29-ounce can of Lux pinto beans seasoned with pork. Going to add in a can of rotel, diced tomatoes and green chilies, and a 15-ounce can of tomato sauce. And I always go back and fill that can up with water and add it in. Then I just stir in my Chili-O packet. None of these beans were drained or rinsed or anything. In a chili, you just want all of that goodness down in there.
I just bring it up to a boil, stir it a few times, and I put the lid on it and just let it simmer. I've eaten this in as quick as 10 minutes, and I've let it simmer as long as an hour or more. This chili is amazing. It always pleases everyone. It has a wonderful flavor, but it's not spicy hot. We absolutely love it, and we love it with all the fixings. I like to knock both of these chilies out on Monday night. Then I can put one of them back. We can eat on one. Then the next night we'll have the other one. Then on Wednesday night, I pull out leftovers and add a little something special to go with this. And we're set. And I'm ready to prep for Thanksgiving on Wednesday night without having to clean up a big mess. Hope this has given you some new soups to get you through these cold fall and winter months to come. If you want a few more, be sure and check out the video I have linked on the screen. It's last year's soups of the year. 2 of them, I'll give you a hint, they're dump and go crock pots, but they're all delicious. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you. Until next time, I send you love from my kitchen.